Welcome back to Veterans Forum, a program by veterans, about veterans, and for veterans and their families. I'm your co-host, Bob West, with Ray Chattery and Jerry Devlin. Our goal is to provide important information to you and your family on legislation, benefits, support, and activities by interviewing leaders in our community. Jerry, who do we have with us today?
We have the three of us here today. We had a guest who couldn't make it, so it's the three of us have to solve all the problems of veterans in the world, and we're up to the job.
Now, Jerry, you have a new position as Department Commander for the Disabled American Veterans of Maryland.
That's correct. I was elected a month ago at the state convention in Ocean City. Previously, I've been state commandant of the Marine Corps League, following in Ray Chattery's footsteps, who also held these exalted positions.
Well, as the department commander, what's going on for this year?
Well, of course, like all veterans organizations, our top priority is boost membership. And we have a very practical thing that maybe some of the other, to a lesser extent, the other veterans organizations have. Because we are so service-oriented, we're able to do things. And I just came back from the National Convention in Atlanta, the DAV, and talking to the service officers. There's practically anybody who served in combat in Vietnam is probably eligible for a pension, either for physical or Agent Orange or psychological problems. And we do have service officers visit us regularly, and it's a good idea if you are a veteran and check yourself out. We had a man who was a Marine Corps League veteran and joined for social reasons, the DAV, because the same people were involved, and discovered that he had an illness that traced back to his Marine Corps service, and he's 30% disabled. It's a great many people don't know that, and we do have a lot of talent to look into it, and it's free, and the DAV will pursue your claims.
And these officers that provide the support, they go through an extensive training program.
Yes, indeed. Both in terms of the medical aspects and the legal aspects. Sure. Yeah, you're dealing with professionals. I mean, these are not volunteers. They're professionals, and they do a remarkably good job.
Yeah, and that's just another reason why our veterans and their families need to find out about these programs that are available to them from veterans organizations. And Ray's with us as the Secretary of the Joint Veterans Commission.
Right, but let me wear the other hat first,
okay.
Bob. I'm also the commander of the local Omaha Beach Chapter Number 7 DAV. And as Jerry was talking about service officers, on the 1st of September, the Mobile Service Officer van from Baltimore will be at the DAV chapter here at 8205 Laurel Bowie Road from 9 until 4 on September the 1st. And one thing I really encourage for the widows or wives of veterans to come, that they can also help their spouses, and if they are widowed, they may be eligible for some benefits. And the National Service Officers are there for them also, and it's no charge. There's no charge. You might have to stand in line, so hopefully we'll probably serve coffee and donuts, and they can stand in the hall while we're waiting to be served. But they do this about 3 or 4 times a year, because we make our parking lot available. And like I said, we have the best, and you give them the power of attorney, and when they walk into the VA, it's like having Matlock and Perry Mason on your side. So, well, let's just go ahead and do it, because they know the DAV's done their homework, and you will get your dues or your whatever you're rated for.
I know a lot of times we speak of widows and wives, but there could also be widowers and husbands out there too.
Oh, yes, right.
So we just want everybody in the family really to be aware that come to one of the organizations and find out what needs to be done, because too often the veteran may become incapacitated, and you need to know where those documents are to kind of help facilitate the process.
Right. And also, I've been at both national conventions in the last 2 weeks of the DAV, and then I came home, went to the Marine Corps League convention. There is a female presence, particularly in the DAV, of disabled women veterans, is becoming very apparent and very obvious. The DAV really is America in microcosm. It's a lot of Latinos from the Southwest, Native Americans, and of course African Americans, and people from, it's really quite a mixed group that when you got disabled in the service, nobody asked you your ethnic group, you know.
There's two very, very important points I'd like to bring up right now. If you served in the military and you got your discharge, you are a veteran. Whether you're male or female, you are a veteran. Get that cleared up. And number two, you don't have to be in combat to be eligible for a disability pension or to be ranked disabled. If you got hurt at Camp Lejeune during a training exercise, as long as it was service connected, meaning, or a lot of times even if a person got hurt in an automobile accident while they're on active duty, they're eligible for compensation, you know, depending on the severity of their injury.
You know, and a lot of times too, as we talk about Vietnam veterans and Agent Orange, a lot of times people who went to Vietnam were discharged thinking they were fine, and now 40 years later are finding out they have health conditions. And these health conditions may be attributable back to Agent Orange in Vietnam. So just don't assume that you're not eligible for some sort of compensation or treatment. You need to go out and explore your benefits.
Now, there's
Pretty much everybody who ever served, for example, in the Marine Corps and comes from east of the Mississippi, served at Camp Lejeune. And they've discovered, you know, the water was impure for about 30 years. So anybody who served at Camp Lejeune from the middle 1950s to the 1980s, all kinds of medical problems are resulting from this. For example, there's a correlation between male breast cancer, which is very, very rare disease, and service at Camp Lejeune. You know, it's so that's something you wouldn't even think about. All kinds of medical problems. So the Marine Corps has a program asking everybody who ever served there to contact them. You know, it's a serious, serious problem.
I was there twice during that time. But the one thing I was going to say is that, now I'll get my thought here together. But so, like I said, if you've been down there and have drunk the water, like from the middle 50s, I think until like through the 80s.
Yeah.
Through the 80s.
Well, I think the major program idea here is if you served in the military at any time, you need to get registered with the VA.
Right.
And then talk to someone down there about your current health condition. That's the most important thing you can do, so you can start a record going. Because once you have your record started, then anything that follows, you know, will track back to your the beginning of your start date. So even for you, the young folks who have recently were discharged from the military, you want to contact the VA and get into the system. And I urge family members to talk to your husband or wife that was a veteran and encourage them to do so.
The one thing I was going to say is anyone who served in Vietnam from 1962 until 1975, whether you were at the Mekong Delta, at the DMZ, or wherever, you are eligible or you come under the Agent Orange. It don't make any difference whether you were sprayed upon or not. If you were in Vietnam, you are Agent Orange. You can put in for Agent Orange. That is a given.
Mm-hmm. And yes, and you don't have to prove it.
And you don't have to prove it.
All you have to do is
prove that you were there.
Boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Right.
Your DD-214 is all you need on that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right. So what's happening with the Marine Corps League?
Well, the Marine Corps League, again, been trying to build its membership, and we both organizations celebrated. It's been a spectacularly successful year in Congress. For example, Congress has passed and the President has signed the advanced funding bill, which means the veterans' benefits will no longer be tied up in the end of the year budget problems. And then I was down at the commanding officer, now a colonel, which is kind of interesting, at Camp Lejeune. You know, they've gotten a couple of $1 billion worth of stimulus funds. They're basically rebuilding Camp Lejeune with stimulus money. And they're making big steps. Secretary Shinseki is a former Army Chief of Staff, very aggressively pro-veteran. They're trying to cut the waiting list, and of course it's very hard. We're in a tight budget era, and of course we're now getting so many more new cases from the Middle East. But so it was a very successful convention. We elected as national commandant a friend of Earl Weaver. Vic Voltaggio, for 18 years, was an American League umpire. He speaks well of Earl Weaver, so all you Orioles fans out there. He was elected in a contested election, and so the Marine Corps League. I think a good part of it is the camaraderie that Marines have. The DAV tends to be all business,
Right.
which is as it should be. I mean, that's getting around with Marines is kind of fun because we're a small organization. Everybody has common memories and common experiences. Everybody in the Marine Corps is an infantryman, for example, no matter what you do.
Since Iwo Jima and then Korea with Incheon, the Marine Corps has really come on its own, and then they made the Commandant in the Marine Corps a full-fledged member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and of course they have the 4-star assistant commandant. This happened during Vietnam, and since we've really come on our own, especially with Iraq and Afghanistan, there's a big push now to rename the Department of the Navy and the Marine Corps, which the Secretary is. He is the Secretary of the Navy
That
and Marine
bill has
Corps.
passed the House
Right.
overwhelmingly. It had more co-sponsors than any bill in the history of the United States, and it's being held up in the Senate by John McCain and Jim Webb.
Right.
You
One
know,
Navy, one Marine.
Yeah.
So, well, like I said, it's anyone out there listening, we really would like to, and it's not going to affect anything. It's just going to set the record straight. And the big item, Bob, what brought this in, Jerry, was that when we have a fallen hero from Afghanistan and from Iraq, they get a letter from the Secretary of the Navy, but there's no Marine emblem on the stationery. It's lacking, and this is what has brought this to light.
It has great bipartisan support. The sponsor of the House bill is Walter Jones, who's a Republican from North Carolina, who represents Camp Lejeune. That's in his district. And the Senate bill is also a Republican. It's Senator Pat Roberts of Kansas. And appears to be what's holding the bill up is some kind of personal dislike that McCain has for Jones, even though they're both members of the same party. And I don't understand Webb's position at all. I mean, and
Well,
if anybody out there, if I could suggest, if any Marines who are listening, write a letter to Senator Benjamin L. Cardin at the Senate Office Building in Washington. He is not a co-sponsor. Barbara Mikulski, the other senator, is. And they've got 80 co-sponsors in the Senate.
Right.
But Webb has put a hold on the bill, so it's.
Yeah, we need to get this group moving because it's very important, especially, because on the stationery, then the Marine emblem would be there, and on the bottom be Secretary of the Navy and the Marine Corps. And whenever a deceased family member gets a letter, it'll at least acknowledge that there is the Marine Corps. And it's
Well,
a
that's
very
only
important
fair.
part. It's only fair, yes.
Yeah.
But I just wanted the public to know that it wasn't a, I'm looking for words here. In other words, it wasn't as shallow, never just where we want to be known. There was a main reason behind it.
Yes,
And
so
that was
the
the big thing.
stationery would say Department of the Navy and Marine Corps, which just
Right.
seems basic fairness.
Right.
And Congressman Jones came and testified, and of course he got a tumultuous standing ovation. And he's not a veteran, which is kind of interesting. I mean, he certainly has been the Marine Corps' guy, but.
Many times we get more support from non-veterans than from veterans themselves.
Well, Webb himself's a combat veteran, so is McCain,
And Webb was Secretary of the Navy at one time,
yeah, and a Marine.
and a Marine, right?
Yeah.
And last Congress, our problem was Senator John Warner, who served in both the Navy and the Marine Corps. So, but Senator Roberts is going to offer it as an amendment on the Senate floor. And the Senate's always a good place to offer amendments. It's probably the only legislative body in the world that doesn't have a germaneness rule on an amendment. You can offer an amendment to any bill at any time. They always say in the Senate, senators think germane refers to Michael Jackson's brother.